going on, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. I got my boy on here. I'm super pumped. Y'all are going to love getting to know him. He's a great dude. He's been a friend of mine for a long time, doing a lot of cool stuff in business too, which we'll talk about as well. And so without that, man, I'm going to have him tell you a little bit what he does, and then we're going to dig a little bit deeper into kind of what he's doing right now, some of the lessons he's learned, and all that good stuff. So tell me a little bit more about what you're doing right now and all that kind of stuff.
Well, first of all, man, I want to appreciate you for having me on here. First time, this is kind of an impromptu meeting.
First off, let's preface here. It's literally it is late. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's about probably 1 a.m. right now.
Yeah.
And I was working at the office, and he was at visiting a buddy.
Yeah.
And he was
Just
like,
like
"Hey,"
that.
yeah. I was like, he's like, "Hey, I'm right on the street, whatever." So we hopped on here, and he's like, "Cool, I'm gonna be up shooting podcasts anyway." So it's literally it is improv, which I trust him. He'll be fine with
It's
it.
great. It's great content for you guys. It's natural. You guys understand, I've known Taylor from the majority of my life, probably all but 7 years of my life. So we go way back. I've known him. My parents and my family, we were super close. So my name is Kingsley Bryce, by the way. And so I actually run a small business. I've been doing it now for 7 years. It's a family-owned business, but I've actually stepped into it. And so kind of taking it over and trying to learn how to grow and expand it and taking it from, one stage to the next. So, that's a brief spiel about me.
Love it. He's humble too. So they do run a pretty big operation in what they do and the family stuff, and he's doing a lot of cool stuff in his business that is definitely innovative and beyond. If you ask any of the people that he works with, they love working with them. It's an amazing experience. And we'll kind of get into some of the things, and that'll kind of lead to the first question I want to ask, and we'll get into some of the personal stuff too. But man, like since being in business and you kind of stepping into that, because we both came from the sports background.
Yeah.
Like we both came from the sports world, professionally played soccer professionally, and I played football, and we grew up kind of in the same environment and things like that. And so first question, before we get too tactical in the business, is what are some of the things, because there's some people that are listening that are, ex-athletes, whether it be even high school, whether it be college, whatever, or people that are just in business that want to not only just grow, and then they always recruiting sometimes the athlete because of the mindset, and they're trying to replicate that in their business. What are some of the things that you took from athletics that you applied to your business life and what you're doing and team you're trying to build, right? So
Yeah, definitely. I think on the personal level, the mentality is big. Just being in sports my whole life and kind of having somewhat of determination to understand, there is a portion of growth that is within your hands, and that's what you're responsible for. Something that definitely translates to business as far as being doing and learning what you can and giving the best that you can, and the rest, you can't control everything, but what you can control, definitely want to take responsibility for it and kind of push forward in that. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is just a team aspect. One thing that I've been blessed to have is to be on a team. I played soccer, so we're around a good number of 20 people or so. And so in that, I've been a captain a couple of times. So just understanding those dynamics when it comes to leading and leading even sometimes by serving, and that translating then into your business as well. Now I'm in a position where I get to essentially create the culture of that company and then maintain it. And then there are some things that you have to be firm about in order to protect that culture. So those things are things that I've fortunately had experience with before in sports, and that have translated well for me. So
I freaking love it. I mean, there's so many gems that you just hit on that are like casual things that people don't, if you really dig deep on, you could talk on for multiple things. Because if you don't stand for something, you stand for nothing, right? And if you're not, you can be like, oh, I'm going to be the cool guy, which there's parts to doing that. But at the same time, too, core values and what you stand on actually is what's cool in the end.
Definitely.
Because people trust you and I know he's a ride or die. He's going to stand by what he says. And your word means bond. And when you develop that and people trust that, people will fight and go to war for you because you go to war for them, right? And that's just, it's a casual thing. People can step over that and just be like, it's simple, but there's so much ramifications if it's done wrong. Right? And so having that core value piece is massive in business.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I think one of the big portions that I had learned even in this process was that, identifying who you are is very, very important in how you want to lead. because there are some people who have not yet figured that out. And so a lot of time their leadership changes because they have not determined what kind of person they themselves want to be.
Do you have an example for that?
Well, I would just say for myself, personally, I think there was times when you want to be a friend as a boss, but it only maybe takes you so far in certain relationships, or sometimes it may be a little bit harder to implement some ideas and be a little bit more firm when you play that role. I remember somebody told me that there's only 3 roles you can play as a boss, right? Either you're a mentor, you're a friend, or their boss. You're already their boss, so you have to choose 2 left. And so I remember being very wise in the way that I had to choose that when it came to certain people and what role I wanted to play. But you couldn't be all 3. And so I remember, I'll never forget that, and it was one that I still continue to utilize and still continue to preach to everyone, whoever I'm training or understanding that the business aspect of life it's one you have to respect. You definitely have to treat it in that way. And it can be healthy if you understand, number 1, again, what your identity and your role is, and number 2, how that plays out in your relationship with your employees and your staff. It can be healthy if done right. So
I freaking love that.
Yeah.
The 3 like that. It's so true. It's facts, because you do have to fill that role, because then now over time people start to recognize you as that thing, and then you try to flip. It throws them off guard, one, or they may not respect you as that. Yeah. Right? Because if you're coming in one direction, I'm going to flip to a mentor. It's like, I didn't really see you that way. Like it's not going to hit the same. Yeah. So 100%, I think it's massive in business. I think it's huge in life and relationships too. Like coming in from just on a personal relationship levels with friends, whether it be your significant other, knowing in and coming in and communicating who you are and knowing who you are. Because if the other person's having to, and I talk about this sometimes in just couples and things I've talked about on the podcast before, is like, if you don't know who you are, having the other person fill that spot for you and making you whole, so to speak, is going to be dangerous down the end. Like, you both have to be sure in who you are together, and then that's what makes it special.
Yeah, and that's a difficult portion, man. It's never a process that stops, right? that changes in every season of your life. You have to continue to realize, okay, be very self-aware. That's huge. You have to be self-aware at every stage of your life so that you can then continue to give the best of yourself to other people. But if you have not taken the time to actually sit down and be like, man, what are things that I value? What are things that mean a lot to me right now, right? This may change from when you're a young kid to a teenager to being an adult. From going from one job to now you've grown to a leader. Have to continue to take self-inventory of those things so that you're aware to say, okay, this is what I've learned from my last season. This is who I'm choosing to be right now so that I can operate and serve the people that are around me the best that I can. A lot of people don't take the time to do that, and they find themselves saying, oh, man, I feel like I've lost who I am, or I don't know who I am. It's a continual process.
100%.
You got to continue to do that work. So,
it's facts, because we're always changing, we're always growing, and we should. If we're not changing, if we're not growing and elevating, that's a scary place. It is. Because especially if you're in a relationship with someone that's not constantly growing, that's not because if you continue to grow, you might outgrow them, right? So that's a huge piece that you want to have. And it's a thing you have to understand too, going into not just intimate relationships, but business relationships. Like those partnerships that you have, you're going to have people that are going to be growing. They may elevate out. They may elevate to a different position that are in staff. They may elevate to leadership. So that relationship is going to change. And understanding also, too, that you have to elevate as well, which means you're going to be in a different class, which maybe also the people you surround yourself may be different, too. So you're constantly evolving. And as everybody's continuing to keep being the best version of themselves, so to speak, you're always going to be leveling up, if you will, right? And that's also, too, another way within, and I talk about with teams sometimes, is if you're constantly leveling up and you have a culture of everybody elevating, the person that you maybe bring in to hire that's new, or someone that's been there for a while that's kind of been complacent, you don't have to really see them out. They kind of see their own way out based upon company culture, values, and standards that are just not even talked about. They're just represented. And it's like, man, I just don't fit in anymore. Everybody's just growing past me. Either I got to level up and be a part of this, or maybe this isn't for me. And so in that standpoint, you start cultivating a crew or a squad that's going to ride or die with you, and they got your back and everybody's running. That's how you build a great team.
Yeah.
I mean, sports is a perfect example of that, right? A lot of times you don't have a choice, otherwise they just cut you, right?
Yeah.
And you got a lot of money in
You
play.
don't have that choice.
Right. But in real world, like, you kind of do have to, I can pick a different job. Well, it's different when you're in athletics because, like, you train 25, 26 years for it. And it's like, if I give up on this, it's like, I got to go do something else.
Exactly.
So I think it's important to understand that as a team, especially going in, as well as people just being, it goes back to knowing who you are, right? And it's understanding, like, this is what I stand for, and this is who I am.
Yeah.
And it's not that when I'm creating a team that, okay, we're just going to kick everybody else out that doesn't fit to those things. But at the same time, I'm not going to just let everything slide.
Yeah.
Because then nothing matters.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was alluding to it really in the beginning of just like knowing your identity. The reality that one thing that I've learned, a very difficult way, obviously, if anyone who out there has had your own business, is that nothing is forever, right? There isn't a person, there's very few people who will stay with you through the entire process. Some people will be there with you through seasons, and some people will be there with you through multiple seasons. But the reality is, like, you yourself have to continue to present the exact same version, your same vision, your same drive, or whatever that may be, and whoever chooses to join you, they get to partake in that success that you may have. But at some point in time, life happens, right? Families, they move. That is a part of life that you have to respect and understand and say, hey, you know what, like, I love you enough to say, I'm going to let you go ahead and go to that. But while you were here, my heart and my vision is that you grew while you were here. And if that's all that you got from being here while you worked with me, then I've done my job well.
Right.
And that's the perspective of, like, if you decide to start leading and that's a perspective that you want to have, continue to hold on to that as people come and go. You know, because at the end of the day, you can actually sit back and say, you know what, I have done a good job in either leading these people well by being consistent and helping them grow. If they got better from the time that they came in the door to meet me to the time they left, I've done my job.
Right. And the thing about that too, right, is that even if they do leave on those kind of circumstances, like, hey, I got to move or whatever, if people reach out to them, it's like, hey, how is it working for Kingsley?
Exactly.
Man, those people are the biggest advocates in the world. It's like, dude, if you have a chance, do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to sell any more people. If it's someone that's not even there anymore and they're like, no, I advocate, I just had to leave, I didn't have a choice.
Yep.
Like, if you treat people obviously the right way and they do the right things in those circumstances, man, you have other advocates all over pointing right back to you. People that may be like, hey, I'm trying to get in this space, I'm in the Dallas area. Hey, if you got something to do and you're in the Dallas, check out Kingsley, bro. He's got a good thing rolling. So you have people out there that are naturally recruiting for you. They aren't even with you anymore. But if you treat them right, they're going to treat you right.
It goes a lot longer. You know, honestly, I think there was a survey that was done recently. Someone was telling me about the most important thing when it comes to work life. And culture was consistently number one that people answered. That matters. Money's great, but at the same time, you can have a terrible culture with a lot of money and people will leave.
Right.
Because it is the
Because
majority of
they'll
time.
hop from money to money too, right?
Yeah, of course.
Some people will stay for money and they may get money somewhere else, but they have a little bit less money, but the culture's better.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, it ain't worth the trade-off.
I'm telling you.
Because I'm going to be a lone wolf over there versus I'm running with a pack. It's totally different.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just a game changer for sure.
It makes a difference, man. The reality is that you spend the majority of your hours in a day at work around those people. So if I were to tell you, all right, great, I'm going to give you $50,000, but you personally will grow at levels that you will never forget in your life. Or would you rather have $70,000 and you'll go home every day wishing that you didn't work here? Which one would you rather have?
Right. Exactly.
At that point, it's a very simple decision. But you have to, a lot of people out there are making that decision mentally and say, you know what, man, it's not worth my life to not enjoy the portions of the day, the majority of my day where I'm at work. So yeah, as a leader, I'm consistently thinking of like, man, I want these people to enjoy their time here and actually be fed and grow when they go home, to love their wives and love their kids. That's my job. That's how I see it. Now, if I get the finances and we have major success, that's an added bonus.
Right.
It's a different way of looking at business. Business is not just you and yourself. Sometimes it is, but sometimes you have a group of people that you're responsible for. And the ones who last the longest are the ones who take care of those people.
Facts.
Point
It's
blank.
100%.
Point
And I actually
blank,
heard, Ryan Stewman talks about this a lot, is like the whole goal is to develop kings or queens in the situation if you have women working for you. is it's a kingmaker, right? So if in that state of things, you're developing these people,
Yeah.
whether they go on, whatever they do, whether they stay with you forever, it's helping them understand who they are, as well as what they're capable, like who they, getting rid of all the, because most people come into life, moments, businesses, whatever, limiting mindset, and they don't even know, right? And it's the whole thing of like growth, personal development is kind of taking those scales off, like, dang, what's really possible? And like a lot of times going into a business or going in and being around people that are in that business that are operating there, it's like, dang, like I didn't even know you could do that, or that's a different way of thinking I've never thought about. Or, oh, he operates completely different than I ever grew up or was around anybody else that does this. And it makes you think different, and you're like, oh, I'm just becoming a different person on top of, getting paid to be here.
There you go.
And now you're stepping out like with knowledge and insight and perspective that people would pay to go to conferences for. You're getting that for free
Every
plus
day.
that's something else, right? And so that 20,000 you're putting in that gap is what people would pay to go to conference. You're getting it every single day on a literally face-to-face
100%.
like persona, right? And so, but people don't see it that way, right?
No.
People don't see the knowledge that's being dropped. People don't see the extra things that you're getting to see a full display of what someone's actually living versus reading it in a textbook, reading it in a book. You could be like, you know what? I'll take the 70, I'll read a book. It's different. It's different when you're in the room, right? It's different when you're in the room. So when that plays into it, you can read 100 books, but when you're seeing people walk it out and how they make the conversation, how they interact, how they carry themselves in the meeting, how they handle an objection, how they handle a critical moment, a book can't teach you that, right? Because it's not in there. It's it would take too hard. It wouldn't make sense. But when you see them in life respond, how they carry it, how it actually works out, you're like, dang, I just learned so much.
Yeah.
And that pays for itself.
Application, man.
Right, and
of it.
that's what it comes back to, what you're referring to, is sometimes we have to look at, because if we become a better version of ourselves, we become more valuable.
There you go.
And if we become more valuable, we become more valuable, right? And if we become more valuable, then that money that we're looking for, we usually have to, a lot of times we get thrown into positions that, for money, that we as a person can't uphold.
Yeah.
And then we have to backtrack, or we feel so stressed out that we can't hold it.
Yeah.
That we're like, dang, I can't do it. I'm not the person I need to be in this particular role to fulfill it. But if you go back the other way and you develop that, now it's like, okay, I'm taking this position, I'm maybe making 100K now. How do I level up to get to this? Instead of like, man, I'm struggling. I'm trying to stay afloat at 100 because I can't handle it. I'm not the person I need to be.
That's real.
And so, but it all comes back down to getting in the room, being around the right people, actually paying attention when you're learning, like when people are giving that information, especially people that are running a business or operation, and you're in it, like you got to pay attention to everything, soak that stuff up, because like you said, maybe you're not there forever, so you want to soak up everything you can. If you can ride with them forever, awesome, roll, like do it.
Great.
There's a lot of benefits to that, but at the same time, every single moment, you never know what's going to happen. You better absorb all that you can possibly. And so I think it's huge what you hit on, because I mean, it's one of the things that you have to understand, especially when you're around great cultures, or you're around great teams, or you see people really excelling, kind of look at what they're doing, right? I know we get taught in athletics all the time growing up. It's like, look at the people that are doing it right and replicate that. Like, that's the first step, is basically replicating someone. You come in as a freshman, you're looking at the senior. All right, what is he doing? I want to make sure that I'm doing that, right? Well, the same thing happens when you go to life or a business, or you step into a business. What is the owner doing? I want to act as if I'm the owner here, because as an owner or a person, you own the business, and you see someone taking ownership of something, like it's their own. You're like, all right, he got someone that can ride, right? You see that and you notice it, but a lot of people are afraid to replicate that because they're afraid to be like, one, I'm gonna overstep, but if it's for the company's good, it's kind of the same deal. It's like, it's a squad deal again. But man, I can go on and on about this. But, and I always try to keep these short, so I know we're going over longer than we normally do, but we got a special guest, and I want to make it happen. But, man, anything else that you would say that you're learning, or you want to just throw at the audience or whatnot, that you want, last second, I mean, we can pop in here real quick.
Sure. Last thing I'll say I'm probably currently learning is that that you always have to learn. I think that is the difference where I'm at now. Just like, okay, there's not ever a place where I'm allowing myself to settle in what I learn. Because the reality is, like, if you are wanting those more things, there is a responsibility that you do have to learn it, right? I likened it to, if I was to give somebody 100,000, right, and you had made plans for 100,000, great. Now, if I told you I wanted to give you 700,000, you don't have plans for 700,000. There is more research that you have to do to be able to say, okay, how am I actually going to handle every single dollar of 700,000? Have I planned that out? Have I thought about that out so that I can do a good job in managing 700,000? If I had a $100,000 mentality and then someone gave me $700,000, I'm not ready. That's the reality, and that's not their fault.
It's like people in the lottery. Most of them lose it all.
It's too much money. You don't know what to do with it.
They don't know what to do with it.
You didn't have a plan. You didn't have those things set up so that when it did come your way, you lost it all. But that's not no one else's fault but your own. So that's one thing I'm learning now. Is just like, okay,
doing the diligence up front.
Yeah, that's something that I actually do need to continue to press into. Just like, there is so much more I need to learn. There's so much more I can learn from everybody. And I'm never one who's going to assume that I am above reproach. I was having that conversation with one of my guys, Chris, today. I'm just like, man, I do not ever want to be above reproach. There's something that I can learn from everybody and everything. So if I'm going to sit here and be like, oh, man, I'm the boss, like, I'm going to tell you what to do. Yes, that's a portion of my job. However, what is it that you see? Facts. Let me know something that you're seeing, because I do want to hear what you have to say, because you can add value to this company. Mm-hmm. And anybody that, as you were mentioning earlier, anyone that, has that a little bit of initiative, which is the big word for me when it comes to my company. I want you to show initiative. If there's an idea that you have, something that you bring, a talent that you do have, bring it to the table, because that in itself will help us grow. Mm-hmm. Something that I don't have all the answers, I know that, but you may have something that I don't. And if you can bring that here and add that to the company, we're going to be better together as a team because of you being here.
100%.
So that's kind of like, I'm learning that, man. Continue to remind myself of those values that I do have, and just slowly growing. Like, the process is lifelong, so don't make it a sprint, make it a jog so that you can make it all the way through. So
yeah, man. And then harping on what you just said is huge, because one of the things too you'll recognize and understand, because I know Kingsley, and I know like the type of operation he's running and what he's doing. The people that are most successful are the people that they're confident in who they are, right? And yet they're still continuing for more, because they understand that they don't know everything. And when they know everything, that's a bad place to be, because probably they're missing something. Yeah. Right? They're missing something there, and they're setting themselves up to miss something too. Yeah. Right? Because like, I know everything, I'm good. Well, then that thing that catches them off surprise, they're not ready for. Mm-hmm. And so it's a constant game of growth, no matter what level you're at. That's my point. It doesn't matter if you're the owner, whether you're dominating, no matter what you're doing, you're constantly trying to find that next thing, because that next thing could be the one thing that takes you out, right? Or it could be the one thing you're not ready for, you didn't see, that could hurt somebody on your team, right? That could set somebody else up that you don't want to have set up in that way, right? It's a way to protect not everybody, you as yourself, but also your squad and stuff. But you'll recognize one thing if you take away in life in general, no matter how successful you are, is you have to be a constant student of the game. Whatever game you're playing. First for us, it was sports. Then we had to change into the business. It's a new game. You got to learn that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm still in the process of learning, and so are you. And we're always in the process of learning, because those things are changing so fast, right? People are changing. Things are changing. Everything's changing. And so you have to constantly be a student of it, because if you're not, those moments of surprise will eat you alive. Yeah. Honestly.
So, one thing I'll do, I always love to kind of, whenever I ever have a discussion or if I'm meeting with some of my employees, I'll leave them at least with one question, right? So for you guys who are listening today, I'll leave you with one question, right? What is the one thing that you are learning right now? That's it.
Facts. Put that in the comments. Yeah. Put that what you're learning. Yeah. Love to share, and you have a community of people in that too. So thanks, bro. I really appreciate you coming on. Man. Thanks for stopping in, even late like this. I love it. That's freaking awesome. Of course, man, you guys got a special treat from a good friend of mine, and hopefully we'll have him on here maybe another time here soon as well. But thank you guys for staying in tune, and I will see you guys on the next episode.
See you guys.